Okay, bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we're coming to you in the name of Jesus. We want to just thank you, Heavenly Father, for allowing us to come together on your Sabbath day, Heavenly Father, so that we can go ahead and know more about you, Heavenly Father, and your word, Heavenly Father. So just give us wisdom, guidance, and understanding of your word as it comes forth, and show it how we can apply it to our lives. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Amen.
Okay. The title of the lesson is called The Gentile Dynasty Will Be in Rulership at the Second Coming of Christ. The Gentile dynasty will be in rulership at the second coming of Christ. So what we're going to do right now is go to Genesis chapter 10, and we're going to establish who the Gentiles are. Who are the Gentiles? Because a lot of times we've been told that, you know, if you're not a Jew, you're a Gentile, which is the furthest thing from the truth. Because like I said, because when you're dealing with a Jew, because a Jew is one from the tribe of Judah, or one who could be from the house of Judah, which could be Benjamin, Levi, or Judah. But then you got the northern kingdom. You have people from Manasseh, Ephraim, Naphtali, Asher. Like I said, those aren't considered Jews, even though they're Israelites, but they're not considered Jews. But the first thing that we've always been told, if you're not a Jew, you're a Gentile. That's what we all been taught in our life. But we're gonna see who are Gentiles according to the word of God, not from hearsay, but we're going to actually read it from what thus says the Lord. Okay, we're going to start this out in Genesis chapter 10. Genesis chapter 10, we're going to start at verse 1. We're going to start at Genesis chapter 10. Now, verse 1. All right, go ahead.
Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dudanim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families, in their nations.
So now as we see that the sons of Japheth are the only ones, when you see in verse 5, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their land, everyone after his tongue, and after their families, and after their nations. Because Gentiles didn't reside in the land of Ham. Because the land of Ham is actually called Africa. Because you're right, because that's where the land of Ham is. The land of Ham is called Africa, what we call it now. Remember when Hannibal got conquered in the Second Punic War, they changed it to Africa Cipricanus, and they named it after who he was. But that land was called the land of Ham. Now we're going to go and read about.
Excuse me.
Sorry, go ahead.
Shem was Ham is African. Shem was what the Israelites.
Right, because Abraham came from Ur.
Israelites.
Yeah, from Eber. Yeah.
And Japheth, he's the one, the Gentiles.
Yeah, the Europeans, exactly.
Europeans.
Yeah, the Europeans, yes. Okay, now we're going to read the sons of Ham. Go ahead.
And the sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan.
See, Cush are the Ethiopians. Mizraim are the Egyptians. Yeah. Because remember, Cush means burnt faces. And Egypt Mizraim means black. Black. That's why throughout the scriptures, Paul, he was mistaken for being an Egyptian. And you also have Moses, who was also mistaken for being Egyptian. How are they mistaken for being Egyptian if they look like the so-called Edomites today? It'll be a big difference, you can tell.
Right.
So the Cushites, people they call Cushites,
are Ethiopians.
okay.
Because remember, Nebuchadnezzar is the one that destroyed the Cushites. Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the Cushites, and that's when, because he was a Chaldean, and when their kingdom was destroyed, that's when Babylon came up under, because Nimrod was the first one to rule, and that's what we're going to read real soon. Go ahead. No. Go ahead and read verse 6.
7.
Yeah, 7.
And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sabbath, and Raamah, and Sabticha, and the sons of Raamah, Sheba, and Dedan.
Now watch Cush now, because remember Nimrod was an Ethiopian. Go ahead.
And Cush begat Nimrod, and began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel.
Babel. Okay, go to right there. Get the Bible dictionary, and go to page 119. Let me see. I'll show you. Read from here to there. Here to there. Go ahead.
Babel, the site of the tower where God confused languages of its builders. Also an early name of Babylon. God commanded Noah's descendants to fill the earth. Instead, they determined to build a city in Shinar, or Babylonia.
Shinar. Because remember, Shinar is Babylon, which is also the same thing as Mesopotamia. And that place is called Iraq to this day. Mesopotamia, Shinar, and Babylon is Iraq. And that's where they ruled at the time. Go ahead.
They also planned a tower that reaches to the heavens, to make a name for themselves and to unify them so they would not be scattered over the face of the earth. The building of the city and tower thus symbolizes human pride and rebellion against God.
Okay. Also, read it from here. No, read right. You just read right here to show us the city.
That's it.
Yeah, it's right there. Read this on the city. Go ahead.
Babylon may be the oldest city in the world, the traditional site of the Tower of Babel. It was one of several cities founded by Nimrod.
Remember, because Nimrod that's real important, because under Nimrod. So now we're going to go ahead and read verses 20 and 21. And 21.
Under chapter 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
These are the sons of Ham.
These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations.
So as you see, it says these are the sons of Ham after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations. Because remember, that's where they were, in the land of Ham. Remember, the Gentiles left. Remember, the Gentiles didn't sojourn in the land of Ham. They went out to the isles of the Gentiles. Now go ahead and read
21.
Yeah, 21. Go ahead.
Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born.
Okay. Now go ahead and read the 31 and 32.
These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues in their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations, in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth.
Right.
After the flood.
Right. Because this right here is called the table of nations. So this is how you know this is where all the people came from. So everyone came from either Shem, Ham, or Japheth. We came from Shem. Like I said, remember, because a lot of people thought we came from Ham, but when you read in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, it says it says Ham, the youngest son of he was like 96 years old before the flood. It said he became the progenitor of the dark races, but not of the Negroes, but of the Ethiopians, of the Canaanites, and of the Cushites. So letting you know that so people, a lot of times people thought we were always Hamites, but we're not. Like I said, we come from Shem, which came from Abraham. Abraham came from Eber. That's why I said when you read verse 21, unto Shem, the father of the children of Eber. And that's who Abraham came from. We came from Abraham, Isaac, and then through Jacob, through that lineage right there.
Where is it written that the Negro didn't stem for him, that there's a distinction between other races and then the Negro?
Yeah, I have it. I have the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. I have that, but that wasn't part of this lesson. But like I said, but I can definitely go after the thing and show you in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary where it shows that we are that the progenitor, which means the father of the dark races, but not of the Negroes. Exactly. Right. Yeah, that's in the Zondervan.
Because for years we thought we were Hamites.
Hamites, exactly.
But whoever authored that book, then they did
revised. They tried to check,
They revised it, and then they took
Zondervan.
They took out the Negro.
They took out that, but it was too late. I already got
But he's already got the original.
Yeah, you know, the Gentiles think they slick.
Yeah, that's why they blotted that out.
Exactly. So now we're gonna go to Zechariah chapter 5. Now we're going to see who's dealing with this flying scroll. The scroll and the roll is right here, so you can get some understanding about this right here. Zechariah chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. All right, go ahead.
Then I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, What seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. Then said he unto me, This is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off, as on this side according to it. And everyone that sweareth shall be cut off, as on that side according to it. I will bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name. And it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof, and the stones thereof. Then the angel that talked with me went forth, and said unto me, Lift up now thine eyes, and see what is this that goeth forth. And I said, What is it? And he said, This is an ephah that goeth forth. He said, Moreover, this is their resemblance through all the earth. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead. And this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah.
Now remember who we understand who that woman was. The woman was Israel. Remember when you read in was it Revelations 13 where it talks about the woman? The woman, and we got the confirmation from Genesis 37 showing that the woman was Israel. Remember, where's it at? I think it was Revelation 12. Yeah, when it talks about, and there, verses 12 and 1, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her crown with 12 stars, and she the woman was Israel. So now we're going to say, let's talk about this woman, right? Verse 7, go ahead.
Okay. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead, and this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah. And he said, "This is wickedness," and he cast it into the midst of the ephah. And he cast the weight of lead upon the mouth thereof. Then lifted I up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, there came out 2 women, and the wind was in their wings, for they had wings like the wings of a stork. And they lifted up the ephah between the earth and the heaven.
Verse 10 and 11 is key. Listen to it. Go ahead.
Then said I to the angel that talked with me, "Whither do these bear the ephah?"
Verse 11.
And he said unto me, "To build it an house in the land of Shinar.
Shinar. Shinar is Babylon. Go ahead.
And it shall be established and set there upon her own base."
Because see, this place of Shinar is a place of wickedness, and they already said it's a place of wickedness, and it was showing you that in 546 BC, that's when we got carried away into Babylon at the time. So now we're going to get some understanding. Okay, now we're going to go to Amos chapter 3. Amos chapter 3, we're going to see who God really known out of all the nations upon the earth. And we're going to show how our downfall allowed the Gentile nation to come into rulership. Amos chapter 3, we're going to read verses 1 and 2. Go ahead.
"Hear this word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, You only have I known all the families, you only have I known all of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities."
Right, that's why I said, that's why, like you said, when you look through the judicial system, every time when we do a crime, we get also, it tells you in Leviticus 26 that we get punished 7 times harsher than any other nation. We always see the injustice of what our people's going through. So when you see that, God is trying to say, we're the only nation of all upon the earth that he's only known. He hasn't dealt with any other nation. So now we're going to go to read Deuteronomy 28. It's going to show our downfall as a nation of the people. And then that's why he allowed Nebuchadnezzar, the Gentile nation, to start to rule. Go ahead, Deuteronomy 28 and 15.
"But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shalt thou be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, and the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep."
Verse 25.
"The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth."
It shall be what? Removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. So that's why you see us Negroes, we are in the 4 corners of the world. We have Negroes in Australia, we have Negroes here in America, Negroes in Africa still, Negroes over in the Holy Land, like all over the place. We're scattered across the 4 corners of the world. So that's showing you. But how did we get scattered? Because it was shown because of our disobedience towards God. So now we're going to see when the first kingdom, when the 10 tribes, the 10 tribes, when they first got taken into captivity and exiled by the Assyrians. We're going to read that. Let's go to 2 Kings 18. 2 Kings chapter 18, verse 11 and 12. All right, go ahead.
And the king of Assyria did carry away Israel unto Assyria, and put them in.
As a matter of fact, before we read that, when you see the Bible, go to Bible Dictionary and go to page 192 right there. The Revealed Bible Dictionary. I'm going to show you about. Let me see. Read the captivity right here. The captivity. We'll read from here to there, and then just read from here to there. So just read the captivity, just read from here, and we'll start from here to there. Go ahead. Dealing with the captivity, go ahead.
Captivity, being seized and held against one's will. Specifically in Scripture, the exile of the Jewish people from their homeland. As the Israelites prepared to enter the Promised Land, God warned them against straying from His commands. In Deuteronomy 28:15 through 68, He predicted the drought, plagues, and military defeats that would result from disobedience. Worst of all, you will be uprooted from the land you are entering to possess. The prophecy was sadly fulfilled in the history of both the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Israel's captivity. The northern kingdom strayed into idolatry and corruption and faced pressure from the mighty Assyrian Empire for some 150 years, culminating in Israel's final defeat in 722 BC. The Assyrians, knowing that people torn from their homelands and local gods were less likely to revolt, employed a policy of mass deportation. About 730 BC, the Tiglath-Pileser deported the Transjordan tribes and the people of Galilee. That's in 1 Chronicles 5:26 and 2 Kings 15:20 and 29. Later, Shalmaneser.
Shalmaneser. Shalmaneser. Yeah, but go ahead. Though. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Invaded Israel and besieged Samaria, the capital city. That's in 2 Kings 17:3 and 5. But died before taking the city. Finally, Sargon II destroyed Samaria and took the rest of Israel's citizens captives. His annals report that he carried away over 27,000 Israelites. His successor, Sennacherib, later threatened Judah and claimed to have captured more than 200,000. The Bible reports no return of the thousands who were deported by the Assyrians.
Right.
Okay.
Now read from here to here. Let's read this.
Okay. Despite the relativity.
Now this right here is under the Babylonian captivity. The first one was under the Assyrian captivity. Now this captivity is going to be under the Babylonian captivity right here. Go ahead.
Despite the relatively comfortable conditions of Babylon, the captivity was still painful to the godly Jew, who remembered Jerusalem and yearned for the land God had promised to Abraham's children. That pain is powerfully expressed in the mournful dirges of the book of Lamentations. My eyes will flow unceasingly without relief, until the Lord looks down from heaven and sees. What I see brings grief to my soul, because of all the women of my city. It's in Lamentations 3:49 through 51.
You know, Lamentation was also written by Jeremiah as well during the captivity. Okay. So now we're going to go back to this 2 Kings 18. 2 Kings 18. And then we're going to read 11 and 12 one more time.
And the king of Assyria did carry away Israel into Assyria and put them in Helah and in Habor by the river of Gozan, and in the cities of Medes.
Medes, yeah.
Okay, Medes. Medes.
Good.
Because they obeyed not the voice of the Lord their God, but transgressed his covenant, and all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded, and would not hear them nor do them.
Okay, now let's go right over, right behind you. Go to 2 Kings 17. We're going to read verses 6 through 16. 2 Kings 17, verse 6 through 16. Verses 6 through 16.
In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria, and placed them in Halah and Habor, by the river of Gozan, and in the cities of Medes. For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh king of Egypt, and had feared other gods, and walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel which they had made. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Lord their God, and they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill, and under
Groves are like wooden images. That's what groves mean, wooden images. Go ahead.
and under every green tree. And there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen whom the Lord carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke the Lord to anger. For they served idols, whereof the Lord had said unto them, Ye shall not do this thing. Yet the Lord testified against Israel and against Judah by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, Turn ye from your evil ways, and keep my commandments and my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent you by my servants, the prophets.
You see, we said in verse 13, it says, Yet the Lord testified against Israel, which is the northern kingdom, and Judah, which is the southern kingdom, by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, Turn ye from your evil ways and keep my commandments and statutes according to the law which I commanded your fathers. Because when you see what happened is that the north, see, Jesus came through the line of Judah. So therefore, like I said, as we're going to read later on, when Judah went to captivity, they had to come back because it had to be a temple, and Jesus had to come through the line of Judah. But the northern kingdom, they were pretty much like, because when you're dealing with Hosea, especially reading in the writings of Hosea, he pretty much cast them out because of what? Because like I said, of all the idolatry and stuff that they were doing. Eventually, he was going to bring them all back when Christ returns. But he allowed Judah to stay in the land. He told Judah to continue, like I said, he was telling Judah to continue to obey his law, statutes, commandments. But see, and then eventually they ended up doing the same thing that the northern kingdom did. They also turned against God. We also went to captivity as well. But further down the line, we're going to read about that. Keep going. Keep finishing up.
14.
Yeah, 14.
Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their necks, like the neck of their fathers. They did not believe in the Lord their God, and they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he testified against them. And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom the Lord had charged them, that they should not do like them.
But you see what they do, they went after the heathen, because heathens are pretty much other nations that were serving other gods, and he kept telling them, stop following and stop serving these other gods, follow me. But nah, they were so inquisitive and curious about trying to figure out who were these other gods. Because he also tells you the same thing in Deuteronomy chapter 12. Like he said, when you come into this land, don't sit there and ask about their God, destroy all the temples and everything. He said, don't even inquire about them. But what do? You want to inquire about them because of because being stubborn and being stiff-necked and hard-headed. Go ahead. Verse 16.
And they left all the commandments of the Lord their God, and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served Baal.
Baal, like I said, that's a Canaanite evil god. That's a Canaanite god. Baal. Okay, now we're gonna go to Isaiah chapter 10. Now this right here is the king of Assyria getting puffed up with pride, feeling like he's doing all this stuff. The same way Nebuchadnezzar did, for those 7 years. He got puffed up and thought he did all this stuff on his own, not knowing God was doing it for him. This same king is also going to get puffed up, and we're going to see what God's going to do to him. See, God's going to take down this Assyrian army. Go ahead. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 5 through 16. Go ahead.
O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. I will send him against an hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath, and will I give him a charge to take the spoil, and to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. Howbeit he meaneth not so, neither doth his heart think so. But it is in his heart to destroy and to cut off nations, not a few.
Okay, now watch this. Go ahead.
For he saith, are not my princes altogether kings?
Now he's boasting now. Go ahead.
Is not Calno as Karshemish? Is not Hamath as Arpad? Is not Samaria as Damascus? As my hand hath found the kingdoms of the idols, and whose graven images did excel them in Jerusalem and of Samaria, shall I not, as I have done unto Samaria and her idols, so do to Jerusalem and her idols? Wherefore it shall come to pass that when the Lord hath performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria and the glory of his high looks.
Because even though that, they didn't understand, the king of Assyria didn't understand that God was still working on his side, because he allowed them to go and conquer all these different nations. So here he is, he's getting puffed up with pride. And he was telling them, because they ended up falling around 701 BC. Well, let me show you something real quick about how God. I know you know about this right here, Dad. Let's go to Isaiah 37 real quick, and we're gonna read verse 36 and 37. And like I said, when you read it, you understand what I'm talking about there. About how God had. Isaiah 37, verse 36 and 37. Read 36, 37, and 38. Go ahead, Isaiah 37. Isaiah 37. We're going to read 36, 37, and 38. Go ahead.
Then the angel of the Lord went forth and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 180 and 5,000.
That's 185,000 people. Go ahead.
And when they arose early in the morning,
that was at night. He did. Angel of the Lord, he smote all of them at night. 185,000 of them. Go ahead.
And when they arose early in the morning, behold, were all dead corpses. And Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed, and went and returned and dwelt in Nineveh.
And Nineveh is also an African nation as well. Same thing. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, as he was worshiping in the house of Nisroch, his god, that Adramelech and Sherezer, his sons, smote him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Armenia.
Can you remember the same way when you look and when you read Ezekiel chapter 29, when you read that, the same way, because you remember the Egyptians had us under under captivity. God pretty much, he dealt with them as well. He dealt with them, and that's why you look, Egypt was no longer a strong nation now. They're pretty much like a tourist attraction because of what they did to us. So the same way he destroyed Egypt in Ezekiel 29, he also destroyed the Assyrian army for what they did to us. Even though he used them, but remember, they go over and beyond. That's why God can also deal with the Babylonian Empire at his second coming, because he's saying that even though he allowed us to be in captivity under these nations, they went far beyond what they were supposed to do to us, like, gator bait and hanging us up and castrating us and taking our women's breasts and put them on plates, like doing all these hideous and evil things towards us. And that's when God said, he don't pay them back for what they did to us as a nation. Well, he's just showing you how he defeated the Assyrian army right here for what they did to us as well. Okay, now let's go to Nahum. Remember yesterday we were talking? That's why I said we're gonna put this up in here, because I was talking, because she was like, Nahum, is that a book in the Bible? What is that? I never heard a book like that. I said, okay, well, let me go ahead and put this.
Okay, said that.
Yeah, never heard of it. Yeah, so now I'm like, let me go and put this in the.
Not taught.
Yeah. Look. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go and read about this thing.
Who said that?
No, I did that. No, that's why I put this in the lesson. To show, yeah. But like I said, it all correlates with the lesson as well. It just throw it in the lesson. Yeah. Okay, Nahum, chapter 1. We're gonna read verses 1 through 11. I'm sorry.
3.
Nahum 3. We're gonna read verses 1 through 11. Go ahead.
Woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery, and prey departeth not. The noise of a whip, and the noise of the rattling of the wheels, and of the prancing horses, and of the jumping chariots. The horsemen lifted up both the bright sword and the glittering spear. And there is a multitude of slain, and a great number of carcasses, and there is none end of their corpses. They stumble upon their corpses, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts. Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will show the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame, and I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock. And it shall come to pass that all they that look upon thee shall flee from thee, and say, Nineveh is laid waste. Who will bemoan her? Whence shall I seek comforters for thee? Art thou better than Populus? No, that was situate among the rivers that had the waters round about it, whose rampart was the sea, and her wall was from the sea. Okay. Ethiopia and Egypt were her strength, and it was infinite. Put and Lubum were thy helpers.
Those are also African nations as well, because you can find them in Genesis chapter 10 under the sons of Cush. Go ahead, verse 10.
Yet was she carried away, she went into captivity. Her young children also were dashed in pieces, at the top of all the streets, and they cast lots for her honorable men. And all her great men were bound in chains. Thou also shalt be drunken, thou shalt be hid, thou also shalt seek strength because of the enemy.
Right. Okay. So now you see that. So that was during Libya and the Syrian time. So God said He was going to deal with them. So now what we're going to do right now, go to Isaiah chapter 23, and now we're going to go and start coming up and dealing with the Gentile nation, because we're showing how the Syrians is taking us into captivity. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to deal with Nebuchadnezzar being the Gentile, how he's going to come and start his rulership, and now we're going to go into captivity under the Babylonians now. So we dealt with the Syrian and captivity during that time. So now we're going to go into the Babylonian captivity. And this is when it's going to come down dealing with the Gentile nations right here.
It's the Syrians.
The Syrians are Africans.
The Syrians?
Yeah, the Syrians.
Well, so it's not, I'm trying to think. It's not Syria.
Not Syria. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, it used to
Well,
be.
no, they were
Syria.
those were all black nations at that time.
Yeah, they went from
at this
Syria
time,
to
they were,
Syria.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
At
Syria
this time,
today.
yeah, at this time,
Yeah.
exactly. It's the
Yeah,
same
Syrians
thing.
today.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
But at this time, they were all black nations.
They
They were doing around. When you look around the Ottoman Empire and during the Arabs around the time, they came in and then they started ransacking the area, and that's how you started that's how they started taking over the area. Bingo.
Okay.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're gonna go to like I said, Isaiah 23 and 13. Isaiah 23 and 13. Go ahead.
Behold the land of the Chaldeans.
Mhm.
This people was not till the Assyrians founded it. For them that dwell in the wilderness, they set up the towers thereof. They raised up the palaces thereof, and he brought it to ruin.
Right, he said, behold, the land of the Chaldeans. These people was not until what? The Syrians founded for them that dwell in the wilderness. They set up the towers thereof, and they raised up the palaces thereof, and he brought it into ruins. So now we're going to go to the Bible Dictionary, page 202. Now we're going to go into the histories of the Chaldeans right here. We're going to read from right here. Read here. And this.
Chaldeans.
Chaldeans, go ahead.
A tribe from southern Babylon, a term for all Babylonians, an educated class of advisors and administrators in Babylonian and later empires of the Middle East. The Chaldeans were a fierce tribal people who originally lived in a small district in southern Babylonia, along the Persian Gulf in what is now part of Iraq. Through the first quarter of the first millennium,
Mesopotamia and also Shinar, same thing.
Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia, Shinar, Shinar, same thing. Go ahead.
through the first quarter of the first millennium BC, they waged persistent guerrilla warfare within the dominant Assyrian Empire. Around 720 BC, a Chaldean ruler gained control of the city of Babylon. Isaiah thus uses Chaldeans as a synonym for Babylonians. That's in Isaiah 23:13, also in 43 and 14.
We just read that, right? 23 and 13. Go ahead.
As the Assyrians put down this rebellion, but a century later, the Assyrians put down this rebellion, but a century later, another Chaldean, Nabopolassar, took the throne of Babylon and launched the Neo-Babylonian Empire. The sudden rise of this new empire may be reflected in God's revelation in Habakkuk.
Watch this. Watch what they say about these Chaldeans, about these Gentiles. Read it.
Okay. Look at the nations and watch, and be utterly amazed. For I am going to do something in your days that you would not believe, even if you were told. I am raising up the Chaldeans, that ruthless and impetuous people
Ruthless and impetuous people. Go ahead.
who sweep across the whole earth. And that's in Habakkuk 1, 5, and 6.
He's raising up these Gentiles because they're going to be ruthless now.
Right.
Because
It says sweeping across the whole
All right, because remember, because he during this time, like I said, he's raising up these Gentiles, and like I said, you look throughout history, when Gentiles came and went into rulership through all nations, what would they do? They would destroy them. They were ruthless. They would kill them off and then take over the land and then rename the land. That's what Gentiles were doing. He was the very first Gentile Chaldean to start doing that. The very first one. And that's how they rule.
They do that to this day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Look at America.
Every place they touch. They destroy the existing culture, take it over.
Bingo. That's exactly, and that's in their nation. They do it. Like I said, that's what.
But it started with the Chaldeans.
The Chaldeans, who were the very first Gentiles to rule. Exactly. They were the very first under Nebuchadnezzar. And then, like I said, so we good?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
By 605 BC, the Assyrian armies were crushed.
By what?
605 BC.
They were crushed now, so no longer the Assyrian army. Go ahead.
And the Assyrian Empire was supplanted by the Babylonians.
By the who?
Babylonians.
So they came and crushed them off. Go ahead. Those were Africans. They destroyed Africans at the time. Those were the black. The Assyrian were the Africans.
Right.
They destroyed them. So now these Gentiles came. Now it's their time to come in to start their rulership now. Go ahead.
In some English versions, the familiar Babylonian is used where the original reads Kasdim or Chaldean. That's it.
Yeah. So therefore, so now they came in, they conquered the Syrians. So now, because God allowed them to also, he used them to also conquer the Syrians for what they did to us. And then God's also going to use the Medes and the Persians to take out Babylon for what they did to us. But you can find that later in Jeremiah 50 and 51. But now let's go to Jeremiah 25. Because God raised these nations, but then boom, he'll raise them up, use them, and then all of a sudden he uses the other nation to take them out.
Right.
Because a lot of them get pride and not knowing that they're getting the power from God. Nebuchadnezzar, same way. Cyrus, same way. But Cyrus understood who he was getting his power from. That's why Cyrus understand to send us back into after 70-year captivity. He sent back over 42,000 or so Israelites to build up the temple for the coming of the Messiah.
Right.
He understood that.
Exactly.
So Jeremiah 25. Good job, Victor. Jeremiah 25. Because see, I added verses 19 and 20. It probably should have been in 25, but I'm going to go ahead and I think that, yeah, because what I'm going to do is end up putting, when you see verses 19 and 20, I'm going to implement that behind, after 19 and 20. Then we're going to start from Daniel and make Daniel 13. Because I see that, because when I was reading, I was like, yo, I have to add those two in there for a reason, because you'll get a better understanding of what's going on in Daniel and Kings and Ezra when you get a better understanding of Jeremiah 27 and 28. So you'll see though, but like I said, that's just the order we're going to put it in. Jeremiah 25. And see, this is also getting an understanding too. It's amazing that, Daniel was reading the prophecy of Jeremiah. That's how Daniel knew after 70 years of captivity we're supposed to return back. Because Daniel was reading Jeremiah's letters.
Exactly.
I mean, we'll see when we get down to verse 11. Yeah, go ahead. Daniel 25, verse 1 through 14. Go ahead.
The words that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, that was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, the which Jeremiah the prophet spake unto all the people of Judah and to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, from the 13th year of Josiah, the son of Amon, king of Judah, even unto this day, that is the 23rd year, the word of the Lord hath come unto me. And I have spoken unto you, rising early and speaking, but ye have not hearkened. And the Lord hath sent unto you all his servants, the prophets, rising early and sending them. but ye have not hearkened nor inclined your ear to hear. They said, turn ye now everyone from his evil way, and from the evil of your doings, and dwell in the land that the Lord hath given unto you, and for your and to your fathers forever and
Right.
ever.
See, so Jeremiah's trying to tell them, listen, turn from your evil ways so we can still stay in this land from which, you know, God has given us. Because remember, the northern kingdom was already dispersed. They were already cast out. But he's allowing the house of Judah to stay in the land. So he's saying, listen, you can stay in this land as long as you're being obedient to God's commandments. But if not, we're going to going away into captivity. Go ahead.
And go not after other gods to serve them, and to worship them, and provoke me not to your anger, provoke me not to anger with the words of your hands, and I will do you no hurt.
I will do you no hurt. Go ahead.
Yet ye have not hearkened unto me, saith the Lord, that ye might provoke me to anger.
Now, go ahead.
With the works of your hands to your own hurt.
To your own hurt. He said, God said, look, y'all doing it to yourselves. He said, I've told you didn't have to do this, but you know what? Because God's been long suffering, he's been patient, but they still kept, being disobedient to his commandments. Go ahead.
Therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, because ye have not heard my words, behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, saith the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant.
He says, what? My who?
My servant.
Oh, why is he as a servant? We're going to see. Go ahead.
And will bring them against this land, and against the inhabitants thereof, and against all these nations round about, and will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment, and a hissing and perpetual desolation.
Everlasting desolation. Go ahead.
Moreover, I will take from them the voice of mirth, and the voice of gladness, and the voice of bridegroom, and the voice of the voice of bride, and the sound of millstone, and the light of the candle.
So all that happiness and stuff that y'all enjoying and all that, I'm going to take all that away. What's going to happen? Verse 11.
This whole land shall be a desolation and an astonishment. And these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years.
How many years?
70
years. But now you notice he says serve the nations of Babylon. Now remember, after Babylon fell, Cyrus and the Medo-Persian took over, but we were still during the captivity. Because remember, when God says Babylon, God refers to Babylon as the 4 Gentile nations. He's dealing with the Babylonians, the Medes and the Persians, the Grecians, and the Romans. So therefore, but when he always mentions Babylon, all 4 of those nations are under the title of Babylon. That's why when you read Revelation chapter 17, it's called Mystery Babylon, because people don't really understand who Mystery Babylon is, but ones with understanding, we know who he is, because as soon as we get to Revelation 17, I'll show y'all how we can decipher and break down who Mystery Babylon is. But God always, that's why a lot of times when people read Jeremiah 50 chapters and stuff like that, they thinking that when they see that stuff, they believe that stuff was already taken place, but a lot of that stuff is still future prophecy that hasn't come to pass yet. When it talks about how he's going to drive the Euphrates River and a 200 million man army going to go across it, they're like, well, show me where that ever happened. That's a future prophecy. That never happened.
Exactly.
But people will try to say, well, show me, because it's the Old Testament. They think it already happened, but that's a future prophecy.
Right.
So say it again. Babylon is the Medes and the Persians.
The Babylonians are the Babylonians, right? The Medes and the Persians, the Medo-Persian. Then you have the Grecians, and then you have the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire, and then the Roman Empire. Remember, they fell in 476 A.D. Broke up into 10 toes, and those 10 toes are going to be the 10 nations. Are going to be the European Union or European Common Market. That's going to be so it's going to be the 7. That's why when he says the 7 heads and 10 horns, and those are the 4 Gentile nations, and they're all getting their power from Satan. We're going to read that, but God allowed them to rule, though. But like I said, we'll see. Okay, verse 12.
And it shall come to pass, when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon, and that nation, saith the Lord, for their iniquity, in the land of the Chaldeans, and will make it perpetual desolations. And I will bring upon that land all my words, which I have pronounced against it, even all which that is written. in this book which Jeremiah hath prophesied against all the nations.
Mm-hmm.
For my nations and great kings shall serve themselves of them also, and I will recompense them according to their deeds and according to the works of their own hands.
Okay, now let's go to Jeremiah 27. Now this right here, now Jeremiah is telling the king, he's telling Zedekiah, he said, listen man, you need to go ahead and submit to these Babylonians. Mm-hmm. Listen, you need to go ahead and submit to them, but Zedekiah he's not going to submit to them. Now read Jeremiah 27, verse 1, go ahead.
In the beginning of the reign of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, came this word unto Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Thus saith the Lord to me, Make thee bonds and yokes, and put them upon thy neck, and send them to the king of Edom, and to the king of Moab, and to the king of the Ammonites, and to the king of Tyrus, and to the king of Zidon, by the hand of the messengers which come to Jerusalem unto Zedekiah, king of Judah, and command them to say unto their masters, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, Thus shall ye say unto your masters, I have made the earth, the man and the beast that are upon the ground, by my great power and by my outstretched arm, and have given it unto whom it seemed meet unto me. Okay, hold on. Real quick, I'm going to show you something, because, you know, a lot of people believe that the Edomites are the European. That's what a lot of so-called Israelites believe. They believe that the Edomites are the European, are the Gentile nations, because they say Edomites are the Romans and Grecians. They say they're all white people, when they're not. I said, okay, well, why is it that when you look, what did verse 3 say? It says, and send them to the king of what? Edom. And to the king of Moab and the Ammonites and the king of Tyre. It's showing even Edomites are under subjection to Nebuchadnezzar, which are the Gentile nations. Because see, they're under subjection and under the rulership of the Gentiles as well as all other nations. But go ahead, verse 6. Yeah, go ahead. And now have I given all these lands into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, and the beasts of the field have I given him. Also,
verse 7 is real key. Watch this. Listen.
Also to serve him. And all nations shall serve him, and his son, and his son's son, until the very time of his land come. And then many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of him. He told Nebuchadnezzar, he said, and all nations now, not just some, all nations shall serve him, and his son, and his son's son. How many sons did Nebuchadnezzar have? He had one son, Belshazzar. You can find him in Daniel chapter 5. He had one son. One son. Belshazzar. He died that night when they started drinking out of the cups of when we got taken away to captivity. They took all our gold and all our jewelry and stuff like that. So what Belshazzar did, he was in there drinking drinking wine out of the cups. And he was drinking wine out of the cups and giving homage to their God. So God got mad, and that's when a hand came writing on the wall, and it showed him that how his empire was going to be destroyed that day. And that's when you see the Medes and the Persians came in and took over his kingdom that same night, because Belshazzar died that night. So when he died that night, that's when Babylonian kingdom was given up, and it was handed over to the Medes and to the Persians. And then, but when you look at it, he said, but why would he say to your sons and to your son's son? Because remember the vision of the statue that he saw in Daniel chapter 2, it was a statue. We're definitely going to go over that. It's a statue that he saw. And the statue that we saw was the four winds of heaven with the four Gentile nations. So therefore, Nebuchadnezzar was the very first Gentile to rule all the way down until the Roman Empire to rule. So it was going to be always Europeans ruling until the time of the Messiah returns. And we're going to go and read that up, because that's like my last verse, verse 18, Daniel 2, where it's going to break it down to where.
So you said Nebuchadnezzar, the son and son, so that's an offspring of Nebuchadnezzar?
No. When he says your son and
your
son's son, that's talking about his. Go ahead.
Yeah,
No, he says your son's son. His son was Belshazzar.
Right.
He died.
Yeah.
And when he died, Darius the Mede and Cyrus, the Medes and Persians came and they took over.
Right.
And then after they took over, then you had Alexander the Great. He came in.
Greece.
He took Greece. He took over because his father was Philip the Macedonian. He took over that area. He conquered. He died at a young age. His 4 generals took over. And then you had the Roman Empire came in. They destroyed the Grecian Empire, and then now the Roman Empire has been ruling ever since. But when he says sons and your sons' sons, he's letting you know it's the Gentile nations.
Okay.
The Gentile nations. He only had one son, and the son Belshazzar died.
Right.
But like you said, but you still see the Medes and the Persians. That's still an extension of the Gentile nation and all European nations behind him.
He's speaking collectively.
There you go. So when God speaks of Babylon, like I said, that's why people don't understand. When he speaks of Babylon, he's referring to Babylon, but he's also referring to the Gentile nations as well. That's why Babylon. That's why the Gentiles have to be reigning and be in rulership at his second coming, because he's going to wipe out the Gentile nation at his return. And we're going to read that in Daniel chapter 2.
Okay.
So his son, remember, like he said, so Belshazzar, he only had one son.
Who
but
died.
There you go, and he died.
He's talking
collectively as a nation,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
But you want to just want to stand and read Daniel chapter 5. Daniel chapter 5 will break that. It'll break that down for you. Daniel chapter 5, showing that he had one son. He died that night. Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead. Verse 7. No, verse 8.
And it came to pass that the nation and kingdom which will not serve the same Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and that will not put their necks under the yoke of the king of Babylon, that nation will I punish, saith the Lord.
So he said all these nations who do not want to come under subjection of Nebuchadnezzar and his rulership, he said he's going to destroy them. So if you think you're going to rise up, that's why these Gentiles been ruling. All, like you said, you try to go against these Gentiles in war, they're going to take us out. Because he has it to where they're going to be ruling until then. That's why they got all these modern warfare, all these weapons and all that stuff. He allowed them to do all that. But remember, though, he's going to end up taking them out. Because they're going to get so prideful, so boastful. When you read in Joel chapter 3, that's when God says he's going to bring all these nations down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, which means the valley where Jehovah judges. And they're all going to wage war against the Messiah. And then he's going to come, he's going to destroy all these Gentile nations. The Gentile nations, because remember, they have a lot of pride in their heart. So he's trying to say, but they've always won. Everything that they're doing, they're always won because his hand is on them and he's allowing them to win for a reason. Go ahead.
Okay.
And with the famine and with the pestilence, until I have consumed them by his hand. Therefore hearken not ye to your prophets, nor to your diviners, nor to your dreamers, nor to your enchanters, nor to your sorcerers, which speak unto you, saying, ye shall not serve the king of Babylon.
You heard what he said? He said, don't listen to them prophets and everyone else saying, don't worry about serving them. Don't worry about serving the king of Babylon. He said, I'll tell you, but now listen to them. What's going to happen? 10.
For they prophesy a lie unto you to remove you far from your land, and that I should drive you out, and you should perish.
Did that happen? Did that happen when? And we're going to see, because someone lied. Someone lied, and we're going to read that in the very next chapter. Someone lied and said that, nah, God ain't say that about us. And we're going to read that, and that person ended up dying too. But we're going to read it. Verse 11. Go ahead.
But the nation that bring their neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon and serve him, those will I let remain still in their own land, saith the Lord, and they shall till it and dwell therein.
He said, but the nations that bring their neck under the yoke of King Babylon and serve him, those will I will let remain in their land. So he's trying to say, so if you're being obedient to them and being pretty much, and let yourself be ostracized under them, I'll let you stay in your land. But if you don't, then you're going to get out of your land. So now let's go to Jeremiah 28. Because remember, Jeremiah 27, what did he say? There were yokes of what on their neck? It was yokes of wood on their neck, right? Where it says, make thee yokes. No, it says, verse 2. Thus said the Lord to me, make thee bonds and yokes and put them upon thy neck. So now they got yokes around their neck. So now we're going to see what God's going to end up doing for the ones who aren't going to hearken unto the voice of Babylon. Let's go to Jeremiah 28, and we're going to start at verse 10. Go ahead. Hananiah, go ahead.
Then Hananiah the prophet took the yoke from off the prophet Jeremiah's neck and brake it. And Hananiah spake in the presence of all the people, saying, Thus saith the Lord, even so will I break the yoke of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, from the neck of all nations within the space of 2 full years. And the prophet Jeremiah went his way.
So you see what Hananiah said now. Hananiah said, what now? What did God say? God said, don't let anyone lie to you, prophets, seers, sorcerer, or whatever like that, to say that you ain't got to serve Babylon. So Hananiah says, the prophet took the yoke off the prophet Jeremiah's neck and break it. And Hananiah spake in the presence of the people, saying, Thus saith the who? Lord. He's lying. When he says, Even so I will break the yoke of Nebuchadnezzar's king of Babylon from the neck of all nations within the space of 2 full years. And the prophet Jeremiah went his way. Verse 12. Go ahead.
Then the word of the Lord came unto Jeremiah.
Now this is the real word of the Lord unto Jeremiah. Watch what God will tell Jeremiah. Go ahead.
The prophet after that, Hananiah, the prophet had broken the yoke from off the neck of the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Go and tell Hananiah, saying, Thus saith the Lord, Thou hast broken the yokes of wood, but thou shalt make free for them yokes of iron.
So now the yokes around their neck go from what?
Wood to
iron now. So now that's forever until he can
Right, that's permanent.
That's permanent. Go ahead.
For thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, I have put a yoke of iron upon the neck of all these nations, that they may serve Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and they shall serve him, and I have given him the beasts of the field also.
What's going to happen to Hananiah? So for Hananiah for lying. Go ahead.
Then said the prophet Jeremiah unto Hananiah, the prophet, Hear now, Hananiah, the Lord hath not sent thee, but thou makest this people to trust in a lie.
Right, remember he spoke to all the people, saying, yeah, 2 full years, God gonna take the yoke of wood off the neck of Nebuchadnezzar. Straight up lie. So that was gonna happen. So everyone believed his lie. So watch what God gonna end up doing to him. Go ahead.
Therefore, thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will cast thee from off the face of the earth. This year thou shalt die, because thou hast taught rebellion against the Lord. So Hananiah the prophet died the same year in the 7th month.
Same year in the 7th month. Just because you want to lie to these people, try to say, you got to do it. He said, I sat there and told you. Because, Jeremiah, a true prophet.
Right.
Hananiah lied.
But Hananiah was a prophet.
Yeah, but he was alive, but he lied though, because he didn't hear from the Lord. He lied and said he heard from the Lord.
He just told the people something.
Right, because they were tired of being, because here they are, they're under these Gentiles, these Europeans. They're like, look, we don't want to be up under them.
Right.
But he said, okay. He said, so he's like, nah, the Lord told me in 2 years. Nah, he never told him
like
that.
a lot of these false prophets out here is talking about when Jesus coming back. And they'll be out
Bingo,
there,
exactly.
and they'll be saying that Jesus gonna come back.
2000.
So he was
And
telling
they
the
do the
people
same
something
thing.
that they wanted to
There
hear.
you go.
Right.
Giving
Because they were tired of being under that. Remember, what did God say? Remember we read in Habakkuk chapter, what was it, 5:1, when it says how the Chaldees were ruthless people, and how that's what they were ruthless. They were evil towards them. So therefore, that's why they didn't want to be up under them. But they weren't also hearkening to what he was telling them to do. So when Hananiah said, God told me this 2 years, and Jeremiah, no, he didn't. So he took the yokes from being from wood to now iron on their neck until the coming of till the second coming of Christ. They're going to be ruling until the second coming now.
Mm-hmm.
And for him lying, he died that 7th month. He gave it the ghost. The guy said, "Oh, you want to lie, huh? I got something for you." Now let's go to Daniel chapter 1. Daniel chapter 1, we're going to read verse 1 through 6. Okay. Go ahead.
In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it.
Go ahead.
And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar.
Shinar. Remember that from earlier? Shinar, Babylon. Go ahead.
To the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God.
Remember, see, this is what I was telling you about. He said he brought the vessels and treasure into the house of his God under Nebuchadnezzar. Remember, that's when Belshazzar was drinking from their cups. From their cups and giving homage to their God. So God said, "Oh, I got something for you." He took them out. But go ahead, verse 3.
And the king spake unto Aspenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge, and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning in the tongue of Chaldean. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat, and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were of the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
Now remember, these are Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. These are the same ones. Again, these are the Hebrew names right here. But it's the same ones. Okay, now let's go to 2 Kings 24. Second Kings 24, we're going to read verses 1 through 15. All right, go ahead.
In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldees, and bands of the Syrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the children of Ammon, and sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord which he spake by his servants the prophets. Surely at the commandment of the Lord came this upon Judah, to remove them out of his sight, for the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he did, and also for the innocent blood that he shed, for he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, which the Lord would not pardon. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the king of Judah? So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiachin his son reigned in his stead.
When it means he slept, you know that much money. He died, right? So you had Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, and he has that. Those were like the last 3 kings of Judah before we got taken into captivity. So Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, and then Zedekiah. Go ahead. 7.
And the king of Egypt came not again anymore out of his land. For the king of Babylon had taken from the river of Egypt unto the river of Euphrates all that pertained to the king of Egypt.
Because you know, well, this is literally like, because you know, Zedekiah tried to team up with Egypt to try to go against Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar found out, and he wiped out. That's when he wiped us out, and then that was our third and final evasion of Nebuchadnezzar. That's when we went away into captivity for 70 years. But go ahead, verse 8.
Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. And his mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord.
All those kings were evil to the sight of the Lord. Go ahead. There's very few, like Hezekiah, Josiah, you know, King David, like very few that were really loyal to the Lord. Go ahead.
According to all that his father had done. At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came against the city, and his servants did besiege it. And Jehoiachin, the king of Judah, went out to the king of Babylon, he and his mother, and his servants, and his princes, and his officers. And the king of Babylon took him in the 8th year of his reign. And he carried out thence all the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all of the vessels of gold, which Solomon, king of Israel, had made in the temple of the Lord, as the Lord had said. And he carried away all Jerusalem, and all the princes, and all the mighty men of valor, even 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and smiths. None remained save the poorest sort of the people of the land. And he carried away Jehoiachin to Babylon, and the king's mother, and the king's wives, and his officers, and the mighty of the land. Those carried he into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon.
3:16, go ahead.
And all the men of might, even 7,000, and craftsmen and smiths 1,000, all that were strong and apt for war. Even them the king of Babylon brought captive to Babylon.
Okay. Now we're going to go and read about Zedekiah's rule. Because, you know, verse 17 said, the king of Babylon made Manasseh his father's brother's king in his stead, and changed his name to Zedekiah. So now we're going to read 2 Kings 25, 1 through 7. 2 Kings 25, 1 through 7. Go ahead.
And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came, he and all his hosts, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and they built forts against it round about. And the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city, and there was no bread for the people in the land. And the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between two walls, which is by the king's garden. Now the Chaldees were against the city round about. And the king went the way toward the plain. And the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king, and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. And all his army were scattered from him. And they took the king, and brought him up to the king of Babylon in Riblah, and they gave judgment upon him. And they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with fetters of brass, and carried him to Babylon.
Now just imagine, the last thing, he kills both of your sons in front of you, and then gouges out your eyes. So that's the last memory that you've seen. And then you get carried. And all he had to do was be under subjection unto remember Jeremiah told him, listen, all you gotta do is just obey the king of Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, and we can still stay in the land. Now, who these Gentiles think that y'all gonna come here and try to tell us what to do? So he rebelled against them. Like he said, I told you, you go to Egypt to try to rebel against them. And God, remember, God was on his side for some reason. That's why he said, my servant Babylon. He allowed them to wipe them out and then carry them away into captivity. But all he had to do was just be under subjection to Nebuchadnezzar. But no, because all this year, because just imagine here he is the king, and all these years they've been ruling. He's like, who are these Gentiles coming to think? Who they think they are? Mm-hmm. And remember, they came out of the Chaldean. None of them were ruling at this time. So therefore, they come out of nowhere, wipe out this area, and now they come out to wipe you out. And then, but God, like I said, but God's hand was with them, though. Mm-hmm. Now let's go to Ezra 1. Okay, Ezra 1 through 5. Go ahead.
Now the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord that by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth. All the kingdoms of the earth. Remember the same way Nebuchadnezzar ruled all the kingdoms of the earth, the same way Cyrus ruled all the kingdoms upon all the earth. Not just that area, but the earth. Go ahead. And he hath charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people? His God be with him. And let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. See, what's crazy, because when you read Isaiah 44, like 28, Isaiah 44, 28 through Isaiah 45 through verse 6, it pretty much tells him about how Cyrus was going to end up doing that. So that was written a century, 100 years earlier. But remember, though, Daniel was cool with Cyrus. So I'm sure Daniel revealed to him what was going on. That's how Daniel knew it was a 70-year captivity, because he realized, he's like, hold up, why are we still under captivity after Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar died? But he realized he had fulfilled the prophecy, John, that was also written in Isaiah 44 through 45. Go ahead. And whosoever remaineth in any place where he sojourneth, let the man of his place help him with silver, and with gold, and with goods, and with beasts, beside the freewill offering for the house of God that is in Jerusalem. Then rose up the chief of the fathers of Judah, Benjamin, and the priests, and the Levites, with all them whose spirit God has raised, to go up to build the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem. Right, exactly. So that's what he did. Okay, now let's go to Daniel 7.
So one of them, verse 1, when he's talking about the first year of Cyrus, the king of Persia, I guess the Medes and the
Persians. The same thing. There you go. No. The reason, because the only time you'll see the word, that's an excellent question, because some people, like some scholars also believe, when I was reading, they said that Darius was like, when you read Darius the Mede, that's the only time you'll find Darius the Mede is found in Daniel 5. That's where we're going anyway. Yeah, we're going to Daniel right now anyway. And it was showing that, show you. It was saying that, right here, it says that another name for Cyrus himself, or could have been his son, Campuses, and the descendant of Xerxes I. But it could have been either Darius, who was a person that he put over Israel. Remember, the Medo-Persians is still, even though it's two kingdoms, but it was still one nation. The Medo-Persians. Okay. Remember, the Medes are the Russians, and then the Persians are the Iranians. Right. And the Iranians, like I said. But when it talks about, when you said about Cyrus is the one that really, he took over the kingdom after Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar died. So now let's go to Daniel 7, and we're going to go ahead and read about the four winds of heaven. Go ahead.
In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea.
Those four winds are those four Gentile nations. Go ahead.
And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it.
That's the Babylonian Empire. Verse 5, go ahead.
And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh.
Now that's the second kingdom, the Medo-Persian Empire kingdom. Verse 6.
After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
And that's the Grecian Empire, the Greeks right there. 'Cause remember, he said after the leopard, then he said the beast also had 4 heads, which were the 4 generals that ruled after Alexander the Great died. Verse 7.
After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, the 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns.
See, he couldn't even name this. He couldn't even name this animal. He's like, I can't even name it. That's a dreadful and terrible beast. Verse 17.
These great beasts, which are 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth.
Go to the Bible, Atlas of the Bible. Go to page 162. Just read. It's right here. First paragraph. Go ahead.
From its mighty start as a dusty village on central Italy's Tiber River in the 8th century, Rome grew at an ever-accelerating pace until it finally became the colossus of the ancient world. By the 1st century BC, its expansionist drive would bring it into direct confrontation with the Hasmonean kingdom under Alexander Jannaeus.
Alexander the Great. And then after that, boom. So he took over his kingdom. So that's how the Roman Empire came into power. So it's letting you know that he defeated the Grecian Empire, and that's when the Roman Empire became this great nation.